Dyslexia is a language-based learning disorder that can affect individuals in various ways throughout their lives. Early identification is key to providing the right support. Let's explore the common signs of dyslexia at different stages of development. In preschool, signs of dyslexia may include speech delays, difficulty playing rhyming games or recognizing rhymes, mispronouncing words, struggling with word finding or retrieving the right word, trouble following multi-step directions, difficulty learning the alphabet and letter names through rote memorization, challenges with memorizing arbitrary sequences such as days of the week, months of the year, seasons, holidays, birthdays, or their phone number and address, and struggling to sequence events when describing something. In elementary school, the signs of dyslexia become more apparent during reading and writing activities, as well as other tasks that are linguistic in nature. When children are assessed by a speech-language pathologist who specializes in literacy using structured word inquiry, you can be sure all areas of language are under the microscope. We look out for trouble learning letters and the sounds associated with them, confusing letters that are mirror images of each other, such as B and D, difficulty reading familiar words or recognizing them automatically, difficulty using inflectional morphemes in oral language and or recognizing them in written language, substituting, skipping, or adding words when reading aloud, poor spelling that doesn't improve with practice, avoidance of reading and even a reluctance to being read to, a more limited vocabulary than peers despite their intelligence and curiosity, trouble identifying and manipulating individual sounds or phonemes in words, sentence formulation, defining words, providing clear descriptions, and thinking with words to answer questions based on recent learning or reading. By high school, the challenges may shift but are still significant. These include reading slowly and laboriously, continued difficulty with word finding and expressing ideas clearly, difficulty using inflectional and derivational morphemes in oral language and or recognizing them in written language, struggling with writing and organizing thoughts on paper, an inability to learn a second language despite effort, persistent poor spelling, continued trouble identifying, manipulating individual sounds or phonemes in words, grades that may not reflect actual performance, either too low or inflated, a more limited vocabulary than peers despite their intelligence and curiosity, sentence formulation, defining words, providing clear descriptions, thinking with words to answer questions based on recent learning or reading, and organizing their thoughts to write a paper, another type of thinking with words. Recognizing the signs of dyslexia and other language-based learning disabilities early is the first step toward providing effective support. Remember, dyslexia does not reflect a lack of intelligence. It also isn't all about speech sounds and phonological awareness tasks. Many dyslexic children complete phonological awareness tasks with an average ability, but still struggle with reading and spelling. As a clinician, I once assessed twins who achieved average and above average scores on the CTOP, but were reading and spelling at a first grade level in the 4th grade. This is one reason why many dyslexic students are missed with formal assessments that only take a look at phonology and phonological awareness. I've heard more than a few parents report that psychological testing didn't result in a diagnosis that explained their child's difficulty with reading and spelling. Each child comes to the table with their own set of strengths and challenges, and may struggle with a few or all of the above characteristics to varying degrees. Language and literacy disorders are not cookie-cutter diagnoses. There's an art to assessment, and deep knowledge of both language and cognition is required. One very important piece is to include dynamic assessment of reading, spelling, and using language, especially when the formal assessments don't explain what parents and teachers are seeing, what you are observing as a clinician, and what the child is experiencing. Standardized assessments are useful, but they do have challenges and shortcomings. The human analytical mind is an essential part of the process. We use the formal assessment tools, they don't use us. The good news is that with the right tools and strategies, individuals with dyslexia and other language-based learning disabilities can thrive. My diagnostic skills leveled up once I studied English orthography using SWI. An important part of the assessment process is understanding the linguistic elements involved in language and literacy so you can recognize when a subtest falls short. You can then fill in the holes using dynamic assessment. Another way my assessments leveled up is by avoiding using nonsense words to assess any area. If I use a formal assessment that uses nonsense words, I either skip it or note the difference when I later assess using real words. It really depends on the child because completing tasks using nonsense words can trigger some children to shut down. I've had some children use a real word for each example because the notion of a nonsense word was too foreign or abstract to them. That's okay, we don't need nonsense words. We can understand a child's level of knowledge of morphological and phonological elements easily using real words. Sadly, we don't have a formal assessment tool that uses real words, so we have to rely on dynamic assessment for that piece. Who knows? Maybe some brilliant SWI-informed researcher will design a more useful formal assessment for us to use one day. In the meantime, click that subscribe button, follow our channel, and let's continue exploring the wonderful world of structured word inquiry together. See you next time.